Hey everyone, welcome back to the Agent Factory, the podcast where we go beyond the hype and dive into some of the more technical AI details in the world of AI right now. Today, we have on the show Paige Bailey, and I'm super excited because she's from the DeepMind team. Paige, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, so greetings everyone. My name is Paige. I'm the UTL for our developer relations team at DeepMind, which means that I get to work on the Gemini APIs as well as things like VO, Nano Banana, Gemma, all of the things that we've released for AI developers to use in their projects.
So I know Google's been up to a lot recently, and last week, Google just launched a bunch of new tech. Do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, sure. So I think I have a slide actually to show kind of the how much we've been shipping over the course of the last while. The and this is just going up to May 2025. So obviously, like continues. Shipping continues until models reach AGI, I suppose, or ASI. But we've been releasing a new model or a new feature about every single day, sometimes even more than one a day over the course of the last year. The latest model releases are really Gemini 3. So we released our Gemini 3 Pro model, which everybody was very excited about last Tuesday. And then also Nano Banana Pro, which is kind of the next iteration of our Nano Banana series of models. Really, really excited about both of these. And then we also have a new IDE for developers called Antigravity, which is released by some of the folks that we have in DeepMind who had previously been working on the Windsurf team. So lots of goodness coming out for every single part of the stack for developers and for people who care about Gen Media.
Yeah, I can't imagine how busy the DeepMind team has been up to trying to release models. It seems like like you said, once a day. And today's November 24th. So if you're listening to this after, of course, these models and releases have come out in the middle of November. And it's been kind of taking the AI world by storm a little bit. I remember last week when Gemini 3 was announced, I was really excited to try it out. And then they launched Antigravity. I saw the blog
Mhm.
post right after, and then the day after that was Nano Banana Pro, and it was a lot. It almost felt like Christmas Day. So
Yep.
yeah,
Strong agree. And so I guess it might be good to talk a little bit about Gemini 3, what it is, was it what it isn't, and some of the things that folks can build with it. Does that sound good?
yeah, I would love to hear.
Heck yeah. So Gemini 3 is really intended to be the next iteration in our Gemini series of models. I think I've certainly been excited about it, especially for doing things like app development, which we'll see in a second. And it's available in all of the places, so you can use it in the Gemini APIs and the Vertex AI APIs, places like Gemini CLI, Android Studio, the Gemini app, AI mode, Jules. They've all been kind of replatted to use this third series of models. And I think it's the natural evolution for Gemini at large. Like the first Gemini, so I was on the original modeling team for both Palm 2 and for Gemini. And I think that model was really all about being able to understand a lot of different kinds of content. So being able to understand video and images and audio and text and code and all of the above all at once. Gemini 2 was really about thinking. So we introduced this concept of reasoning, of being able to plan, of being able to kind of think step by step through processes and have these detailed thought traces and thinking tokens. And then the third iteration of Gemini is all about like getting much, much better at code and also being able to act on things. So we've made huge improvements to tools use, function calling, which are great for agent style workloads, but also being able to incorporate things like tools into the reasoning process. So you can have these kind of more composite architectures of different models working together, different models interacting with systems to accomplish tasks, as opposed to just one model trying to do all of the work all by itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is really well explained. It almost, like you said, sounds like the natural evolution between 1, 2, and 3. And I would imagine the Gemini 3 so good at being able to do things like coding because of the data set maybe that you're training it on and its ability to action on whatever it's been reasoning on, which a lot of coding is, basically what it is, right? Action, taking actions, writing code, changing functions, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And to your point, like there are really two parts of the model building process, right? There's pre-training and then there's post-training. And pre-training is all about giving Gemini as many tokens as it can possibly have access to. So getting it like the entirety of the internet, like we're creating a lot of synthetic data sets that the model can use to help accomplish its work. So things like video game footage, things like a lot of synthetically generated code that gets run, and so you can kind of get an idea that it's actually doing something useful with descriptions of what it does. All of that kind of getting put into post training, and then or pre training, and then post training is really all about giving much more uh, kind of sort of specific examples of kinds of use cases that the user would be expected to take. So having really hand curated examples of people using a whole bunch of tools to accomplish a task, lots of multi-turn conversations that include edits of websites, lots and lots of those kinds of things getting added into our post training mixture, in addition to techniques like reinforcement learning. So I think that there's a lot of really hard work that's been done across tens of thousands of people across Google to get the models into a much better state, and it's been really inspiring to see, honestly.
Yeah, interesting. So this pre and post training process is almost like sending Gemini to school to learn the basics, and then the post training is almost like on the job experience where they get to learn what the workflow looks like, so they can then replicate that. Very cool.
Yeah, and then the other thing, these are just kind of the benchmarks for the model itself. My favorite one is something called Vending Bench, which is Vending Bench for folks who are uninitiated is gauging the model's ability to run a passive business. I'll add a link to the Vending Bench 2 website so everybody can see. But basically, you're saying, "Hey, model, your job is you run this vending machine. You need to figure out what we should stock it with. You need to, whenever you realize that something's about to go out of stock, like you should reorder it. You should deploy a person to restock the machine whenever the order comes in." And you should also do long range planning to make sure that as you're like handling all of these component parts of the business, that it's able to have as much uptime as possible. So like I don't come to the vending machine looking for pretzels and find pretzels are missing. But I'm able to kind of have those expectations when the vending machine is running. And then the way that the models are gauged in terms of performance is how much money they make over the course of a year, and which is awesome. It's like the model's ability to run a passive business. Of course, you would gauge it by how much money it actually makes over time. And right now, Gemini 3 Pro is coming in at around $5,462 per vending machine, which, um, given that we're operating on this exponential trajectory, maybe we can all retire and run passive businesses at some point in the future. But it's been really exciting to see how the models have improved on these things that require a lot more strategy and a lot more decision making, especially long-term decision making, for these kinds of use cases.
Yeah, I just sent you an invite for a meeting after this for a vending machine entrepreneurial sync. You and I can.
Excellent. I really so I really want just kind of like as a segue, I really want somebody to create an eval for like a laundromat bench.
Hmm.
Because I do feel like these kinds of passive businesses have immense potential, and a lot of people who have built AI startups, AI companies just recently, they have a few operating just kind of more or less autonomously. They don't have to step in very often, but there's still like pretty significant revenue streams every single month. It might not be $1 billion, but it's certainly enough to kind of meet the needs for users and to kind of take care of some of these tasks.
Yeah, it really allows people to bridge the gap, I find, and unsolicited Google, non-certified Google advice. But I think laundromats and vending machines tend to be some of the most secure and good entrepreneurial beginning
Yeah,
ventures, I guess. So,
absolutely. Maybe we should get a vending machine. That would be kind of fun. Like, put it full of Google swag.
yeah.
Like, cool. And then so additional kind of benchmark things. It's the first model to break 1500 on Ella Marina. Right now we come in at around 1501. It's also doing really, really good at Web Dev Arena. So the new feature that you might have seen in Replit, that's their design feature to build beautiful UIs, is powered by Gemini 3. And you can really, really see a difference in the quality of the apps that get generated with Build and AI Studio. And then it's also kind of state of the art at reasoning and multimodality, at tools use in planning. If you're a Minecraft enthusiast, it's much better at these kind of voxel art experiences. So you can see the difference between Gemini 2.5 Pro and Gemini 3 Pro for these kinds of voxel art demonstrations. Um, really, really good at making games, including games with interesting game mechanics and kind of beautiful UI. Um, and it feels like we've been talking about it for a while. Would you be down for me to show how to use it in AI Studio as part of our build feature?
Let's build.
Excellent, let's do it. And I think both of us, we were having a conversation at the very beginning, like, both of us less of a fan of slides and more of a fan of, like, showing stuff in action, so, like, let's show some stuff in action. I also, like, one last thing, though, before I pop over, um, it's currently available in the API, so you just have to change out the model doc string, and then also if you've been using OpenAI as part of your projects, we have something called the OpenAI compatibility layer, which allows you to swap out a few lines of code. So this API key and base URL, you would just modify it to be your Gemini API key, and you would swap out the model name. But then you would be able to run it with your OpenAI code, hopefully without any changes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I've taken up enough of your time, but
No, no,
I
no.
want to take up even more now because I'm
Excellent.
super excited for building.
Cool, cool, cool. Let's do a thing. So let me zoom over to AI Studio. This is the build feature in AI Studio. If you expand out this section on the left, you can see that there's a left-hand pane. You can select the build feature, and then it immediately puts you into kind of this build environment. I'm going to collapse this so there's a little bit more real estate for us to see what's going on. And then basically you can just describe anything you would like to create. You can also see a kind of an app gallery with remixable apps, things that the team has created, including a comic book style experience, a product mockup visualization, lots of games and immersive 3D worlds, including like simulation games, which are pretty cool. And you can fork these, remix these, share them with your friends. We'll also show how to share them with Google Cloud in just a second. And then also, if you can't think of something to build, if you click I'm feeling lucky, it gives you kind of a out of the box, ready made app idea that you can incorporate into your projects. But what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to like build increasingly complex apps with the goal of trying to make it so that Gemini can't build it and it has to kind of fix itself along the way. Because we do have an auto fix step within AI Studio. It's just that it's triggering much less frequently now because the models are getting so good. So I'm going to try to see if we can build something that is sufficiently complex that Gemini will have to fix itself. So let's try this out. Um, cool. Create an app that uses the webcam and the microphone to have a conversation with a user. Um, the app is intended to be kind of what it should be is kind of like an insurance app. So the user will show a bunch of different objects. The app will sort of catalog all of the objects, like describe them, put down their name, do an assessment of what kind of wear the object might have, and then also use Google search grounding to try to ground with how much that item might be worth. the app should put that in a table format, so the user can see all of the objects that they've been cataloging, through the duration of the video conversation. The app should also be really well designed, should show some stats about all of the objects, that the user has put down for insurance purposes. And the app should also have like a Nordic theme, so it should feel like very IKEA vibes. Um, and for the video conversation, the app should be using Gemini Live along the way. So that was just like spitballing a whole bunch of information. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how well it'll do, but let's try.
Let's figure it out.
Um, yeah, and then so what's happening here is you immediately get put into something that looks like an IDE. If I expand out this thinking section, you can see that Gemini is figuring out what it should be doing, is figuring out how it should be doing function calls. I said the Gemini Live API, and it's figuring out what model name that should be, figuring out what the structure of the data should be if it's supposed to be cataloging all of these items. You also see kind of some recommendations about what to do with the app here in the center. There's a place up in the right where you can save to a public or a private repo on GitHub. And then there's also a place where you can add files if you would like. Add files, so add things like images or text files or PDFs. And as Gemini is working, you can see all of the code getting created along the way, as well as the prompts that are created to give to each one of the models. I love asking Gemini to write the prompts for Gemini just because usually it does a much better job than I can do. All of the files are getting put into this really nice directory structure here in the center. And the nice thing too is that since this experience is baked into AI Studio, it has insight into the latest models, the latest features, what's possible with the APIs. Right now, it's generating a React app. You could have also specified Angular. It's using React Native, so you can access all of these apps via mobile phones as well. But this is really cool to kind of see and to just have an idea, and to figure out how to get it started without you necessarily having to wade through documentation or figuring out which models to use for which experiences. I also
So
quite yeah, go for it.
no, I was just gonna say, so you threw your messy thoughts into this thing, and
Yeah.
obviously it's very impressive that it's able to not only format your thoughts into something that is a bit more coherent, but also write the code. I think the most impressive part is the name that it came up with because I know that you didn't, I know that you didn't specify that, but
Yeah,
yeah, Nordic Shield.
Nordic Shield. So what we see an app, so I'm gonna try to see, how well this does just out of the box. Hey there. Hmm, let's see.
So yeah, that's that little auto fix button, I guess, probably.
Yeah, so it looks like, just taking a look at the app itself, taking a look at the app itself, it was able to hook in the webcam.
Hmm.
It even gave me the options of turning on or turning off my video and my camera, or, my camera and my audio rather. It created the inventory list, which is pretty cool. It has some condition breakdowns, shows connections. But then, it didn't pick up on my audio, which often happens whenever you have multiple audio sessions
Hmm.
simultaneously. So I think what it's doing is it's figuring out where, it would, like which section it would need to figure out to attend to. And then that would trigger the Gemini live call. And so there's a big reasoning trace on the left, which shows kind of like, all right, is the mic on? Is it enabled? How do I toggle the mic? How do I understand the media stream? And then it should be able to understand that as part of the website as well. Um, yeah. I also I feel like it's a much better design than I would have been able to come up with myself. I also really like that it automatically included instructions. Apparently, this person that I or the entity that I'm talking to will be called Sven, which is also very Nordic. And we'll see how well it's able to make the changes.
I mean,
Um,
you did ask for IKEA, so
this is true, like, it's the and I think the one of the nice things too is, I started doing machine learning around 2009, so a really long time ago, but I've always been more of, like, a Python human than a JavaScript or TypeScript human. I worked on part of the VS Code team for a while, so I've built, like, VS Code extensions in TypeScript, like, I've built small websites, but I would not call myself a TypeScript, like, expert by any stretch of the imagination. So having this help, figure out where the problems might be, where to debug it, how to debug it, like, what libraries to include to be part of a modern stack is really, really helpful just for me personally.
yeah, I was about to say, like, it's quite impressive that it not only recognized that there was an error,
Yeah,
it parsed that error, made a
yeah,
reasoning state for you, and allowed you to kind of have some level of interpretability into its thought process, which I think is, like, so important because, obviously, if it's doing something that's kind of not what you intended, you can easily, like, pull the plug, if you will, which is doesn't seem like it's the case here, but you never know, right?
100%. I also really, really like if you zoom in to the bottom, you can see like warnings, insights into the build process. So rendering start, rendering end, recommendations on what to do to change like the ergonomics and the accessibility of the website itself. So like, hey, this formatting might not show up as well on like a mobile device. And then our design team has also implemented a feature called annotate. So if you click annotate app, what you can do is you can circle features, you can add comments. So say things like, I don't make this cataloged items section more attractive or similar. And it's able to kind of take the comments and make changes and modifications to the website, the same way as you would work with a designer to kind of do redlining against the UI itself. Um,
This is really nice too, I think, because, like, it looks like it's still working on trying to fix the bug while you're able to annotate. So you can
yeah,
almost do two things at once, have it, like, work,
yeah.
and then also have it, like, annotate your designs or review your designs.
Yeah, and I love also like there are a couple of different agents that we have, or I suppose a few different agents that we have as part of our Google AI stacks right now. So we have Jules, which is an asynchronous agent, Gemini CLI, which is kind of a synchronous agent that you can operate within a terminal. But it's really, really nice to have, a team member go and attempt to accomplish a task and debug it along the way. So let's see. It looks like it's made some changes. I'm going to go ahead and try again. Hey there.
Hello there. I am Sven, your insurance cataloging assistant. Please show me the items one by one, and I will help you catalog them.
What about this?
I see a dark colored smartphone in a case with a ring grip. It looks to be in good condition. Would you agree with this assessment?
Sure, it's a Pixel 7, but you might also see that it has like some scuffing and like a cracked screen if I turn it around.
Ah, thank you for clarifying. I see the scuffing and cracked screen now when you turn it. Based on this, I would say it has fair condition. Do you agree? Great. I have cataloged the Pixel 7 smartphone. Is there anything else?
What about this?
I see a Diet Dr. Pepper can. It looks like it is in new condition. Shall I add this to your catalog?
Well, how much do you think it would be worth?
I can't estimate value myself. I can only catalog the item with its name, description, and condition. Would you like to add the new Diet Dr. Pepper can? The
Sure.
Diet Dr.
Let's do it. And then also, how about this computer screen that you see in the back?
I see a large screen on the wall with some images and text. It looks to be in good condition. Would you agree? Understood. I have cataloged the computer screen. Is there anything else you would like to catalog today?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you for using Nordic Shield's insurance cataloging service. Have a good day.
Cool. And so you can see, let me zoom out a little bit so folks on the call can see as well. It looks like there were two phases. So as we were talking about these different items, the live API feature showed them on the inventory list. So it gave the item name, the description, the condition, the estimated value. But as part of the estimated value step, there was a second kind of follow up action that did a search around Google to pull in like what would the estimated value of this thing be. So the live API kind of assistant was just responsible for cataloging. And then after she added an item to the table to the inventory list, that kicked off a second step. So almost like an agent to go search, round up a bunch of different items, and then give us an estimate for how much these things might be worth, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
So it was, and it also added links, like citations for those different items as well, which is pretty cool. Um,
yeah. I think like this is probably one of the nice new things about Gemini 3 or some of the APIs now that allow for these types of models to always be grounded in search, right? I think something like this would be helpful for like decluttering my space. I sell a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. So.
Yeah. Excellent. So like and I think it's also nice to help with kind of detailed descriptions of all of the different items. And then if you wanted to deploy this app via Google Cloud, you could select a different cloud project, click deploy, and it would give you a unique URL with logging and kind of insights into all of the different features that you might be including as part of your project. So if you like, as an example, I'm going to show my personal Google Cloud account. There we go. Excellent. So this is the logging feature in Google AI Studio where you can see if you turn on logging, all of the different kind of JSON blobs that come in from your app interactions. You can see things like usage and billing, so the number of API errors and requests that you get per day, as well as kind of any rate limits that you might be about to hit. So it looks like I've been using VO3 past my rate limit options for at least the tier that I'm on. And then you can also see the different projects. And right now I have around 85 keys created for generative language client. But it's cool to be able to have a one-stop shop where you can see all of that usage, which is quite nice. And just to give Nano Banana its time in the spotlight and to show a couple of examples that people have built with it, you can do everything from kind of use a Pinterest style collage of items, compose them into a single image. You can do things like build orthographic blueprints for real life places. So in this case, a castle, being able to see Neuschwanstein Castle from different views with high reliability for all of the text. You can create detailed physics explainers, and all of this is grounded using tools, including things like grounding with Google Search, which is pretty amazing. You can also change the resolution, so 1K, 2K, or 4K, and then also the aspect ratios as you use these generative media models as part of your project. So it's been really exciting to see what people create, everything from kind of reimagined game experiences to like detailed posters and slides for their papers and their projects at NeurIPS.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the creativity and power, I guess, gets unlocked when you even combine all of these things together. So you can ask Gemini to go and do research for you on, I don't know, skiing areas in across North America, across a train line or something like that. pull all of that information, create an image, and then you know what I've seen people do? Take that image, put it into VO 3.1, and they get an animated explainer, which then they can use as a part of the slide or presentation or something like that, which is very cool.
100%. When you combine reasoning with multimodal outputs, like the possibilities are really endless, and it's so much easier to understand things like images or video, I think, than to have people kind of comb through just raw text or raw code. So it's been really exciting to see.
Wow. Thanks so much for showing all of this to us, Paige. It's been
Yeah.
really insightful. I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to show you one of the projects that I've been working on with Gemini 3. Maybe you can critique me and let me know what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right and what you think about it. This is my website that I'm using to share resources and articles with people. As I've been making more short form video content online through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and such, it's been kind of challenging to find a way to share some of the resources that I talk about with people who are viewing my content. And so you can see here that I have a lot of URLs that I often reference, including Nano Banana Pro, Gemini 3, and so on. But I don't know or have a good way of sharing it. So I created this website. I threw these ideas that I had for a more like doodly, vibrant, pastel-esque, neo-brutalistic, notebook-esque theme into AI Studio, and it created this for me. It's a nice place I can use to like manage all of my content, create new assets for me, save it, and then import it into my videos. The problem is that my previous website obviously doesn't look anything like this. So I thought maybe what I could do is combine Google's new IDE, Antigravity, and Gemini 3 to inherently take advantage of that multimodality that we spoke about earlier, take a screenshot of this new website, feed it into the code for my old website, and see what it comes up with. What do you think?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay, so Paige, here we are in Antigravity, which is meant to be an AI native IDE from Google, and it has Gemini 3 Pro baked right into it. So what I'll probably do is take those two screenshots that I was talking about before and feed them into here and just ask if Antigravity or Gemini 3 Pro can come up with a way of redesigning my site to adhere to this a little bit better. So I'm going to grab those two screenshots. So I'll ask it recreate this site to adhere to my new design philosophy, which you can see in the included images. So go ahead and run that. And while that's running, I think it's worth noting that obviously Gemini 3 Pro's big job here is to not only interpret what's inside of the image, but kind of break it down into the most notable features that it needs to then go and apply to coding within anti-gravity. So while it's doing that, it obviously has explored a little bit already and it's created this task list here. So explore the existing code base and a little bit more. It'll follow that task list to continue ensuring that it stays grounded and true to that kind of process of development as time goes on. So the next thing it'll do is obviously analyze the new design and then set up the new design system. Yeah, and so the next thing it came up with here is this implementation plan, which I also find to be really nice because through this process, it's creating a bit of documentation, which is nice because down the road, when the code base becomes larger and the AI has to continue sifting through more and more code, it can continue to reference through things it's done in the past. So you can see this implementation plan. It has these actions like new, modify, and so on, and it keeps it from not going off the rails as much.
Awesome.
Paige, have you created anything cool with Nano Banana Pro?
Oh yeah, so with Nano Banana Pro, I've been experimenting quite a bit with different outputs. Let me show one from a little while ago. The quality is just absurd. Um, as an example, I created a bunch of let me share screen really quick. Um,
Oh, nice.
I created a bunch of images with,
Nice.
uh, popular, like, physicists and computer science figures, so, like, Claude Shannon, Richard Feynman, and Carl Sagan, and then also one of our winning hackathon projects this past weekend was using Nano Banana Pro for its game asset generation, so I'm not sure. Yeah, so they used it for every single one of the game assets
Right.
as well as the design patterns for the games themselves, which was quite cool. This was at the AI Engineering World's Fair. And how is your website coming along?
So it looks like we're done here. What I'll probably do is pop open my terminal and then run the app, and then we can take a look at what it looks like.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So, Paige, this is what it came up with. You can see here that it actually followed the brand guidelines pretty well. It has these pills that kind of jiggle when you hover over them, and it has like some more information about my resources, prompt library, agent blueprints, and things like that. So, I found it did a pretty good job of just like with one prompt. What do you think?
Oh, it looks awesome.
Thank you, Gemini 3 and Antigravity. I can't wait to continue playing around with this tool.
Very, very cool. I love the kind of attention to detail and the creativity that it puts into these UI designs. I feel like it's better than ever at kind of creating these kinds of experiences.
Paige, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for coming and explaining a little bit more about Gemini 3 and all of the great things that Google launched last week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. And I loved that we were able to talk about not only just the models themselves, but also how Google's entire AI stack, from the hardware to the compiler to the machine learning framework to our end to end app deployments, even things like Antigravity and AI Studio and all of the other surfaces that we have around Google, help make sure that we're building the best possible models for all of these different use cases. It was really fun.
And not to mention all of the cool things you can do and deploy them to Google Cloud and have them ready in production. So thanks so much again. I'm Amit Maraj,
And I'm Paige Bailey.
powering down.